For the most part, we are used to heroes facing their usual rogues gallery of villains, but it gets real interesting when another villain just comes along to spice things up. I'm Adam Andrews with Top 10 Nerd, and today we are counting down my list of the top 10 times superheroes fought the wrong villain. Number 10, the Hulk versus Hoarfen. Loki, the god of mischief, very famously has a very large wolf for a son, named Fenris, or Fenrir, however you want to pronounce it. That wolf is absolutely diabolical. Powerful. As such, his own offspring are also pretty powerful. But specifically, we're talking about the Lycan known as Hoarfen. Now, on the other hand of this discussion, the Hulk is quite strong as well. We have seen him team up with Asgardians from time to time, being one of the only Midgard heroes to be able to do so. We have seen a giant wolf face the Hulk in the MCU, and that was awesome. But when the Hulk was helping out some of the Norse pantheon in Incredible Hulk number 422, he faced Hoarfen, and it did not go well. Hoarfen ate both the Hulk and the Asgardian volley with gamma green fluids coating his teeth and lips. This comes right at the end of the issue, and it ends off with the comic saying, hilariously I might add, and then ... they died. Now, luckily in the next issue, the two wake up in the realm of the goddess of death, Hela, and she eventually resurrects the two inside Hoarfen's stomach so that they could smash their way back out. But I've honestly never seen the Hulk lose like that before. It was kind of crazy. Number 9, Superman versus Deathstroke. Knowing who Superman is, we are all pretty aware that not a lot of people can beat him, and those that have are almost all supremely powerful. But some of them are just clever. For example, Deathstroke. There have been a few times that these two have come to blows, usually ending in a draw, surprisingly enough, but one of my favorite Deathstroke and Superman matchups occurred during the New 52 era in Deathstroke number 9. The issue featured a surprising team-up between Slade Wilson and Wonder Woman as the duo battled against a Titan and his mythical army on Themyscira. Now, Deathstroke had acquired the legendary God Killer sword, and swore to use it to vanquish Lepidus, which is the Titan, once and for all, when Superman unexpectedly arrived in response to all the commotion. Now, being a big old suck and assuming Deathstroke was responsible for all the mayhem, Superman sought to take him down before being parried and surprised by a massive swing from the God Killer sword, with Deathstroke using the flat end of the blade to completely floor the Man of Steel due to his weakness to magic. The sword helps Slade to even hold the Man of Steel for a short period of time, but eventually Supes uses his speed to get his hands on Deathstroke before Wonder Woman breaks up the fight, making this all a bit of a draw, but still. Number 8, Mysterio vs. Wolverine. The post-apocalyptic world featured in the Old Man Logan story came to be when the villains decided that instead of fighting their usual villains, who they always lose to, they would instead put themselves up against whatever hero they were actually best suited to face. Basically, I could talk about all the villains for this entire list, but I'm not going to do that. In the case of Wolverine, that happened to be Mysterio. Now, Mysterio is a master of creating illusions that trick even the senses, and he is almost always defeated by Spider-Man because of his spider sense. But for Logan, his super sensors are one of his key traits, so when Mysterio uses his illusions to trick those senses into believing that the X-Mansion was being attacked by Doc Ock, Ulysses Claw, Strife, and a whole squad of powerful villains, Wolverine held nothing back. Using his claws, he cut through the villains like butter. With all the other X-Men nowhere to be found, it was Wolverine versus everyone, and he was taking all of those villains to the grave. When he finally took down the last one, Bullseye, the illusion was lifted to reveal that these villains were in actuality his fellow X-Men, who were just caught completely off guard by the sudden attack from one of their own. Number 7, Blue Beetle versus Giganta. Blue Beetle. Beetle is in the name, so you'd think that he'd be pretty aware that villains who can grow to massive size can give him some issues. But I don't think any of us realized how much of an issue it would actually cause for young, inexperienced Jaime Reyes. In the 19th issue of the 2006 run of Blue Beetle, Ladama, Jaime's crime boss rival and the aunt to one of his best friends, is being attacked by the Wonder Woman villain known as Giganta. As she smashes Ladama's house and chases her through the streets, Blue Beetle is doing everything he can think of to try and keep Ladama alive and also stop Giganta, but everything he tries to bring her down just bounces right off of her. He's trying to subdue her like she's a normal woman. Now, luckily, Jaime is being trained by Peacemaker at this point in time, and he, alongside some called-in advice, lets Jaime in on a little secret. Humans becoming giant requires them to magically enhance their bodies so that it can handle the strain of being that large without collapsing into a pile pile of broken bones and goo. The fight took a turn when Hamey took Peacemaker's lesson to heart about the subtleties of the human body, and he finally figured out how to use Giganta's size against her, but it took a hell of a long time. Number 6. Batman vs. Reverse Flash. Right at the very beginning of The Flash, the Button, which is part of the crossover between The Flash and Batman and the prelude to Doomsday Clock the Button, the Reverse Flash ends up in the Batcave. Now, Batman has taken on metahumans quite a bit, but of all the villains out there, it's probably Superman's and the Flash's villains that most other heroes are going to have a hard time with. Eobard Thawne has been able to move faster than the Flash himself, and he has pulled the wool over Barry Allen in some big ways. So Eobard against Batman, it's a real interesting fight, if not a very one-sided fight. Batman had just hung up the phone with Barry when Eobard showed up, and in the minute that Barry said he would take to get there, Reverse Flash beats Batman purple and rips up a note written for him by Flashpoint Batman, aka Thomas Wayne, his dad. After that, Batman is able to get in a few licks after plunging a batarang right through Eobard's foot, but that only results in another beating from the Reverse Flash. Batman just barely survives the fight with the evil speedster. Number 5. Hulk vs. Doc Ock. Now this one is kind of crazy. You'd think that the Hulk would wipe the floor with Doc Ock. When the Hulk and Spider-Man fought, Hulk only lost because Spidey gained some cosmic empowerment, but for Otto Octavius, all he needed was a spiffy new set of adamantium arms. So way back in the day, Dr. Octopus happened to get his hands on some adamantium octopus arms, and they were put out of commission and weirdly forgot about for a very long time, until they made a spectacular proper return in Spider-Man 1990 issue 18 and 19. This is the Revenge of the Sinister Six arc, and not only does Otto manage to make quick work of the entire Sinister Six to take control, even turning the Sandman into glass, he also defeats Spider-Man, throwing him miles away from the fight, but then he gets his hands on Professor Hulk with these new spiffy arms. And not only does he completely lift Hulk into the air, he then beats the guy up so bad that he gets knocked unconscious. Number 4. Hulk vs. Thanos. Now, I'll admit, this moment kind of annoys me in retrospect, and that's just because it was the whole reason that Bruce Banner's Hulk doesn't get to really show up for any of the MCU's Avengers Infinity War or Avengers Endgame, which is a damn shame. The Hulk is the strongest there is, or at least he usually thinks he is. The Hulk's raw power makes for some truly crazy and satisfying scenes, especially in the MCU. People in the theaters of Avengers Infinity War were pumped to see the Hulk face Thanos. Comic book fans, however, are well aware that Thanos can defeat the Hulk, but the way he does it in Infinity War, man. After letting the Hulk get in maybe like a few punches, Thanos displays his superior strength as he pulls Hulk's hands back off of his shoulders, and then a little quick tester jab to the shoulder gets the Hulk stumbling back. After a quick little sizing up, Thanos not only blocks or redirects every single swing the Hulk throws, but he continuously pummels the Hulk, throwing jab after jab and even getting in a good knee to the face, leaving the Hulk delirious before Thanos lifts the massive green Goliath over his head and slams him full force into the ground. It basically neuters the Hulk from being able to manifest from Banner going forward, which eventually leads to Professor Hulk. Number 3. Superman vs. Doomsday. Doomsday does not speak. He can't be reasoned with, and the only way to get him to stop is to beat him harder than he will beat you. That's because Doomsday was created on the planet Krypton as the ultimate life form, tested against that planet's harsh environment and eventually against the Kryptonians themselves. So, when he first ever appeared, he was the perfect match to face off against Superman, and he did a spectacular job. Superman didn't properly stand a chance against this guy. The Justice League and Superman attempted to stop the monster from reaching Metropolis, but even their combined might couldn't effectively slow the creature down, with the hero Booster Gold giving the creature its name after being brutally defeated by it. Vowing to stop the villain at all costs, Superman fought Doomsday alone and hand-to-hand in the streets of Metropolis, each of them mortally wounding one another while the shocked world just watched on in disbelief. Relieved that the monster had been finally defeated once and for all, or at least it seemed that way, Superman passed away in Lois's arms in Superman number 75, which became a hugely popular story for that very reason. In at number 2 today, it's General Zod versus Captain Boomerang. Okay, now to preface this, Captain Boomerang is not a hero. except for when he is part of Task Force X, aka the Suicide Squad. And even then, it's tough to call any of them a hero. But regardless of that, Captain Boomerang is not the guy you would put up against a Kryptonian. In 2016's Suicide Squad, in the second issue, Task Force X are sent on a mission to Russia to retrieve or destroy an unknown device. Turns out that device is actually a portal to the Phantom Zone. Rather than leave that thing be, Captain Boomerang waltzes on up to the portal and is literally incinerated down to his ankles instantly by none other than General Zod, who is trapped inside. I doubt the Boomerang guy would have been able to help much in the squad's fight against Zod. It's honestly a miracle that any of them survived, with Katana being the main one able to actually do some damage. It was kinda nuts. And finally, in at number 1 today, Wolverine versus Magneto. In the 1993 crossover event Fatal Attractions, Magneto was offering mutants sanctuary on his ship, the Avalon, and recovering from the legacy virus, he was planning to completely wipe out humanity, being opposed by the X-Men. Now Xavier, in a special Shi'ar suit, leads the fight against Magneto on Avalon, and Magneto holds everyone off until Wolverine gets the drop on him. Now, I should say, Wolverine versus Magneto is the stupidest fight ever. It doesn't even make sense. Wolverine, he has metal on his skeleton. Wolverine makes it so close to him, slicing him across the chest just a little bit too close for Magneto's comfort, and that pushes Magneto over the edge. He basically turns the adamantium on Wolverine's skeleton into liquid and quite literally pulls it out of his body. This got Magneto brought down quick by Xavier. It led to the rise of Onslaught, that huge massive villain. It revealed that Wolverine's claws are actually bone, and it turned Wolverine into a completely feral version of himself with no nose, which is weird. And that's all I got. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. I've been Adam Andrews, this is Top 10 Nerd, and until I catch you on the flippy flop, keep it real out there. Peace out, nerds.